Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Stone Genius. You know me, I'm often stoned, always a genius. Debatable with my family since my stroke, whether I still fit in the genius category. What was concluded is I cannot be kicked out of Mensa or the International High IQ Society once I'm in, so I'm good. Today we have a very special guest with us, and it almost looks like she may be being attacked by a plant over her shoulder there. Her name is Isabella Young. She is joining us from the beautiful state of Hawaii. Hey, Isabella, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Ro. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I have just been joined by my cat. He's just a new
Okay, that's
addition.
what was moving the plant.
Yeah, and so he's anyway. We'll see how he goes. It's one of his first interviews, but
Well, I hope he does well. And I will tell you that our our dog passed about 9 months ago. But I'm not
um,
sure there was ever an episode where she didn't make an appearance of some either visual or audio or otherwise. So your cat is more than welcome to join the festivities. And I will tell you, I'm not afraid to call out. If the cat ends up being a better interview than you, then I will just have you move over a little bit and we can just set the cat down as well. So, Isabella,
okay.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born in Australia, and I lived there up until 2000, when I met and married a man who I ended up going on a very dark path with. We lived in Southern California, and where I thought I was uh, in an ashram with my. I've been on a spiritual path since I overcome my devout atheism, thanks to my mother. So I thought I was in an ashram with my guru, and we'll talk more about it, of course. But it turns out I was actually in a cult, and it was in Southern California. It's still going. He's still scamming people and mind fucking people and raping young people. So that's still underway. But I got out, and I've been living in Hawaii since then, and I've been on a healing journey, obviously, because I was pretty fucked up after that. And I've been writing about what I've learned about, well, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual well-being. So I've just finished a book that took me about 7 years, and we can talk about that. I'm not here to plug that, but anyway, it's been it's like an opus writing this book. I've learnt so much, and now it's time to share some of that information. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be speaking with you and your audience today.
Well, I'm so appreciative of you joining us today, and you have quite a story, and we will touch on some of that. We will touch on actually on most of that, but I do want to start with thalassophobic. So that is the fear of deep bodies of water. Is that correct?
Is it? I thought it was love of the ocean.
No, it's the fear of the ocean.
Really? I should take that
Yeah.
off I should take that. Well, I love the ocean too, but I do also have a fear of it. And I do fear deep bodies of water. Like, I would much rather I'm in the ocean all most days actually, but I don't go out in my depth. So it is true that I do have a fear of deep bodies of water, but in general, I love the ocean. So,
Okay, so yeah, thalassophobic, and that's why I was going to ask. You're on Hawaii, which is like just this little boop of land out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, you got deep water all around you. So that's why I grew up in Florida, and while I'm not a big my thing with water is I don't really care about the deep water if I'm doing something. If I jump off a boat because it's warm and we get wet and we get back in, I don't really think about that because I'm thinking about, oh, we're just having fun cooling off. If I'm sitting waiting for a wave on my surfboard, I don't really think about the water. If everything goes calm and flat and you're just sitting there and you're by yourself, I start to think about what's in that water. So, yeah. Let me ask you this. Growing up in a beautiful accent, by the way, I
oh,
wish I
thank
could
you.
do accents. And here's the thing. I can do accents. But it's almost like a Tourette syndrome because I'll try to do like a German accent and it comes out as Australian, or I'll try to. So I never get what I'm going for. So beautiful accent. So did you grow up? You said that you have a love for the water now. Did you grow up in Australia near the water, or were you more of an inland? I think that most people in Australia are near the coast, but you can answer that for me.
Well, I grew up inland and near the water. And I just want to go, I think that the word that I should have written down is a thalassophile, which is someone who
Okay.
loves the ocean, thalassophile. Anyway, on to, I grew up
So
in
then
a,
that was, I will say that would have been my mistake because I think I put in philosophile and it went to thalassophobia, and that's where then it's so the positive is the file, the phobia is the
right.
negative. So
Yeah.
okay, so it was me that wrote it down incorrectly, audience. It was not Isabella. So she knows exactly what she loves and what she's scared of.
Yeah, it gets more clear every day.
So hold on. Now you got to clear something else up. How did you grow up inland and on the water, or were they separate times?
No, it's the same time. So if you uh, hold the map of Australia in your mind, and you can see that, if you sort of know the geography, there's the southern states on the eastern seaboard. There's Victoria, that's the most southerly state. And then there's another little island called Tasmania. Well, the most southerly state is Victoria, and then it's separated from New South Wales, which is the next northern state, by what you know as a wiggly line. Well, that's a river. It's the largest river in Australia, and it's called the Murray River. So I grew up on that river, which is, by the time it gets to this town that I grew up in, it's very wide, and it basically, the town wouldn't really be there without it, because it you can grow crops,
Okay.
citrus and wine grapes and stuff like that. So we spent a lot of time water skiing and camping and fishing and all that sort of stuff on the river.
See, and I'm just thinking of you wrestling crocodiles and surfing. That literally, that's your whole life. Like if someone told me what's the life of an Australian, I go, they probably wake up, wrestle a crocodile to get out of their way. They grab their board, they head to the beach, maybe wrestle another crocodile or two. So yeah, that's, and I think that's how most Americans are when we think of Australians. So let me ask. I apologize. I tend to be all over the map. So I should have apologized before we hit record on that. I wanted to ask you, though, after everything that happened to you and you left Southern California, you ended up in Hawaii. Why did you not return to Australia? Was there something calling to you for in Hawaii?
There was. I had, at that point, I had family in California, Southern California, and family in Australia. And I thought, well, where the fuck am I going to go? I'll be having to do that 15-hour flight way too often. And I remember that knowing that the Hawaiian Islands were healing islands, so I thought I should go there. And
Yeah.
I went to Maui with a friend of mine, and that the first night I was there, I had this nightmare that I knew it wasn't the place for me to live. That's exactly what the nightmare was about. So I thought,
Really?
where am I going to go? And she said, well, I'm going to Kauai next. Why don't you come and meet me there? So I came here, and everything's just fallen into place, including from the start where I went on Craigslist to look for a place to live. And the first place that I saw was a room in a house on a couple of acres with fruit trees, chickens, walking distance to the beach, like all the criteria that I've wanted to have in my life for years. So of course I knew that was the place to start. So that's where I first landed, and then
So I smiled as you were saying your checklist because you mentioned chickens, and then you said, these checked off. So were chickens literally on your checklist? Like, were you
yeah,
like, I need to be close walking distance to the beach. I need good food, good dining establishment around me. And man, if there could be chickens, if there could just be chickens roaming around, but I could see those being very healing, perhaps. Are they?
yeah, they can be. I've wanted chickens because of the way that they fit in with a homesteading life. I wanted to be able to. I wanted to be as self sufficient as possible. So I wanted chickens, and now I've got chickens, but they're just not caged. They're free range, and sometimes they're fun, and sometimes they're absolutely brutal. Like I've learned a lot from chickens. They're not nice to each other. They might be nice to their chicks, but once their chicks get to a certain age, they will turn on them, and that pecking order is all that counts. And they will turn on their own chicks. They'll kill each other.
Oh,
They're not
alrighty
very
then.
nice. They're not very friendly birds. They're very it's like focused on food and who's the boss.
That see, I wouldn't. So as I've spent the last 6 months at home post stroke, and I've always had a good relationship with my squirrels. So we have a lot of squirrels. We live on a golf course, and they come over and they know where they can eat. And I have to train them to come eat out of my hand, and I've been able to do that. And they can be very soothing, and they've gotten into that. You had mentioned a pecking order. They've kind of gotten into that. Like I'll see like squirrels if there's two sitting on the fence, they'll look at each other and it's like they know which one goes first and which one goes second. But I've never seen them fight amongst each other. I say that because I only have one squirrel because do the Hawaiian Islands, do they have squirrels?
No.
Okay.
Some of
Are
the
you,
islands have the closest thing to that would be a mongoose, and that was introduced to the Hawaiian Islands. We don't have the mongoose on Kauai, but they are on Big Island in Maui.
well, that's probably to get the snakes that you guys don't have, aren't supposed to
Oh,
have,
it's
or
one of those
indigenous.
ridiculous
Yeah,
botch ups with, they're trying to control the food chain.
I know. Whoops. No, I find it very, very soothing for me to watch those animals. And I do think it's funny. I was going to say, there's only one that I've named. Something horrible happened to this squirrel. It's grown back now. He was missing all the hair between his eyes, and then one eye's kind of like bulging out. And I don't know if you watched the TV show The Walking Dead.
No.
There was a character who gets hit on top of the head with a bat. They kill him, and his eye kind of bulges out like that. So I only know one squirrel, and it's Glenn because he has this big. I'm not even sure he can see out of it, but it is very interesting that they do have a pecking order that animals will go through. When you left California and you finally settled in Kauai, I I believe I'm like you. I feel the energy. I'm healed by things other than what people call medicines. We'll probably get to my favorite plant, cannabis, at some point. But I mean, when you got to Kauai, you find this. You find the perfect house. The room. It matches. It hits all the boxes that you wanted checked off, and you're set there. When did you know that you were feeling the change, and how did you first feel that change come to you when you arrived in Hawaii?
I I could feel the change straight away, and just not being in the environment that I came from, in that cold environment, that was just hell. So simply getting out of that environment and being able to relax and not feel like I'm being, messed with or, lied to or tortured like that. So I felt that uh, pretty much immediately I could relax. But it was really, it came over time by deepening my connection with nature. And I wanted to go back to your comment about just like you observing your squirrels. That's medicine there. Like if we just take time to look at what's happening outside in the natural world, whether that's squirrels playing or dogs playing or clouds moving or ants or bees or whatever, that's medicine for us because our bodies need to be calmed by those by nature. And that's what happened to me by being in this beautiful environment, because the Hawaiian Islands are healing islands. That's what they're known for. There's healing to be, you know, received all over the planet, really. That Earth is a healing entity, but particularly in Hawaii, it seems to be concentrated energy. And that's what I experienced. So I deepen my connection to nature. I spend a lot of time like hiking or paddling, or I don't surf, but I spend time out in the water snorkeling and just walking on the beach, picking up trash, whatever it is, just being in nature. I didn't wear shoes. I still don't wear shoes very often, except if I'm traveling or whatever. I don't even wear them at work because I want to stay connected to the earth and earth energy. that's something that's being overlooked in healthcare. We need to be directly connected to the earth. Like our ancestors didn't wear shoes, not not because they didn't know about them, or some shoes they wore, but they were all conductive to let the earth energy come into our bodies. We need that. There's no other way that we can be balanced physiologically, like electromagnetically. We have to be connected to the earth to like return to a balanced state, and that's pretty urgent these days because there's so much stuff throwing people off balance. So I stay connected to the earth. And then the other practice that I started, which I know a lot of people still think is like some hippie woo woo bullshit, but I sun gaze most days. I'm able to just look at the rising sun as it comes above the horizon and take in the highest form of energy, the highest like light codes, light optimizing information straight into my brain, basically. So I do that every day. And that, along with using plant medicines, like I'm sponsored, this is my sponsor. Yeah,
That's a beautiful top, by the way. I was going to mention that.
yeah,
So,
I wear it I wear it on every podcast that I do. I wear the same thing because the plant medicine has been like central to my healing.
so
So
let
it's
me ask you about your familiarity with plant medicine prior to you going on this healing journey once you escape this cult. Were you familiar? I'll just give my example. I grew up my on one side, and I was adopted though, but my dad was a pharmacist. His dad was a pharmacist. Have no idea what my great grandfather. On my mom's side, everyone was like in the ministry. They were all reverends. So, and it goes back to the 1700s. I went back on my mom's side. So I had parents that were very anti drugs. I was born in 1967. The hippie movement was coming on. A lot of the hippie, oh, they must do drugs or they do drugs. So they must be a hippie and all this. So I was anti. I used to laugh at people when in California made it legal in 96 and they were like, I have a headache or what. They had a medical condition. I'm like, oh, okay. And the first time I tried it, because I had arthritis, the story is told the same way every time because it was so impactful. But I'll shorten the story. The first time I tried it, I knew. I was like, oh my God, it is medicine. Because like I'm high right now. Like I smoked 2 bowls before we started, like right before we came on. And I would consider myself high in the fact that I wouldn't drive or handle heavy machinery, which I don't do anyway. But I feel like I can handle myself. I always thought I would be Cheech and Chong and it had no medicinal value. So now that I've spit out all my long story, what was your familiarity with plant medicine prior to your arrival in Hawaii? And how, if there was a familiarity beforehand, has it changed once you got to Hawaii?
well, my father's father and my father's brother are pharmacists as well. So I've come through a line of pharmacists and vets
Which
on
I
that
always think
side.
is funny that they think like drugs or I had an orthopedic surgeon one time. I had thumb surgery and he goes, I went for a follow up and he goes, do you need more? Do you need a prescription for your pain meds? I go, no. I go, I didn't fill the first one. He goes, you're not using anything? I go, no, I smoke pot. And he literally goes, you know, that just masks the pain, don't you? And without missing a beat, I was like, what do you think pills do? And it was funny because it wasn't until I said that, as soon as I said that, you could be like, he was like, oh, so I don't think he had a problem with pot again after that. It was just he had never made that, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. So, but I always thought it was funny. My dad was so anti marijuana, but take a pill. Oh, there's a pill for that. We got a pill for that. There's a pill for that that's going to make your liver fall out, but take it anyway. So I cut in on you. I'm sorry. Your family. You come from a long line of pharmacists.
Of
Ha-
farmer whores who've made their fortune off pharmaceutical drugs, and they've served pharmaceutical companies. I've got that on one side of the family, and then the other side was my mum, who was a devout atheist and wanted to. Like, she probably would have gone to war against people who believed in God. Anyway, my introduction to weed was when I was in high school. We had a lot of Greeks and Italians who'd immigrated into the area back in the 50s, and they grew grapes, and they also grew weed in between the rows of the grapes. So we would be able to
Good
get
coverage.
bags of fairly leafy, seedy weed, and I used to, smoke it every now and then, and in college too. But it wasn't until I think my husband passed away suddenly, and it really catapulted me into a fairly, like, well, deep healing journey, because that was like, I just wanted to die after that. So I started going deeper into my spiritual journey. Before that, I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God, didn't believe in a higher power, thought it was just people being weak and pathetic. And I took some trips to India where I went to a couple of what's called temple towns, and they're towns that have specific spiritual significance. I mean, all the towns do it in there, but some of them maybe where Krishna visited, or there was a appearance of a Krishna in a like as a rock or a deity. He's manifested himself somehow. And in those towns, it's possible to find these, they're called bang lassis, BHANG lassis, and that's basically you're drinking, it's like a weed lassi smoothie.
Okay.
And I so then I understood more about how that plant medicine is used in a sacred context to, and it's what they call it, like creating the bhav, BHAV. That's like basically the mood. And so I learned more about how to appreciate the medicine as a mood enhancer. And then as I've been continued to use it, I've now understood it as a plant teacher as well. So when I talk about weed, when I write about it, I refer to it as an entheogen. So it's a way to, I don't know, speak to God, communicate with God. You can use whatever word you like: higher power, universe, spirit, great spirit. But the consciousness that's greater than mine. And so I learned to respect it more as a medicine. Not that I don't just, I usually eat the medicine rather than smoke it. And it's not that I, am always being serious and, taking it in a sacred context, but it's definitely been a profound teacher for me. And that's, I thought when I started writing my book, I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't smoke weed. It'll like, I had my own judgments of it. I've got the voices in my
Right.
head of the family, but it really, I was amazed at how easy it was to receive information, to collate information, to write information, to draw like ideas together. It was so much fun, it really was. So
Yeah. And that's one thing about weed is that the strains really do different things, because I will research, like, if I'm on the lower end of where I want to be weight wise. And I had a stroke 6 months ago. I have another major surgery, a knee replacement coming up here in a couple weeks. And so I'm always concerned that if something happens, I don't have a lot of weight to lose. And so sometimes I specifically look for strains that may kickstart my appetite,
right.
which my wife always knows, because we have a corner that has all the snacks in it. And if it empties in 2 days, she knows I'm using that strain. If it stays there for a week or so, she's like, "Oh, you changed strains right after I went to the grocery store." I'm like, "Yeah, probably." But I do like the creative part of it too, because there are strains that I will smoke specifically before this show or while I'm working on this show, because the only thing I can really say is in those movies where it's trying to show like someone's idea coming together, and it shows all these different parts and it coming, that's how it feels to me. It feels like when I smoke, things that may not have been tied together somehow become tied together. And I love
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my experience too. It's fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And also things that I didn't see before, like it just, my perspective continues to expand. I know it's from sun gazing every day, but it's also from the plant medicine. I just continues to see bigger pictures of things.
Yeah. So so as a, probably, I wouldn't call myself a photographer anymore because I don't shoot pictures really. But when I was doing that, we would call it the golden hour. That first hour of the sun being up and the last hour of it being. And while we called it the golden hour because for photography, the lighting was very good. The lighting was very good, not just for your subject, the lighting was good for your surroundings too. So if you wanted to see the sunset over a horizon or over what, or the sunrise in a certain way, like I would often see it like, oh, this would be a good place to take a picture at sunrise, because I also know that not only would that be a good spot for a picture, it would be a good spot to just be like, this is a good spot to be seen, to see the sun and things like that. So I totally understand that that type of connection. Besides the sun gazing, are there anything else that you do that you find very calming, whether it's plant based or whether it's just something that you body based that you do?
Uh, Lots of things. In fact, most of the things I do specifically because they're calming and relaxing. So I spend a lot of time in the ocean. I go snorkeling, and while I'm snorkeling, I look for fishing line or some kind of trash that's wrapped around coral, and I unwrap the coral because the coral's going to die if it has anything touching it. So I do that. That's very rewarding and relaxing, just floating around out there. And then sometimes I just take my mask and goggle off and just lie on my back and sun gaze, because I can sun gaze now with the sun directly overhead. So I'll just do that, completely relax and float and sun gaze. So, because that's how we receive optimal information. Optimal life optimizing information is by being relaxed. So I practice being relaxed by doing that, and then I do as much gardening as I can. So spend time trying to keep plants alive. I haven't got the greenest thumb, but yeah, spend time tending to plants, growing at least some food, because that's when we grow our own food, we're basically growing our own medicine, and that can be as simple as sprouting sprouts in a jar to having a full-on vegetable garden that you can pick and preserve food from. But if the plants are a conscious being, so there's a series of books called The Ringing Cedars. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I have
By
not.
this guy Vladimir, I can't pronounce his last name, but anyway, he encountered this extremely wise woman in the taiga, I think, in Russia, and she shared her knowledge of plants and animals with him, which is profound, like way beyond what most people can understand or even comprehend. And she described this process whereby you like hold a seed in your mouth for a certain amount of time and plant it at a certain time of the moon, and then that plant will grow specific medicine for you because you put yourself into it, and it'll respond with in kind. So I also trust that the plants, I can just communicate with them straight away, and we're in some kind of synergistic relationship, and what the leaves that they're giving me or the fruit or whatever, that's medicine that's for me.
And that's the, oh, I'm talking over my microphone there. That's one thing about with me as well, that I would see in nature a healing. And oh, I wanted to ask you this question because I economically, I think it would be much better for me if I grew my own plants, cannabis plants. That being said, I don't have a green thumb at all. And while I know that there's YouTube and there's videos and I can try to learn it, I have not learned because of my fear of screwing up plants and being, because I am like you. I mean, I've killed something. I mean, there's no there when you see someone like throwing a plant away or something, that, oh, I killed that plant. I mean, there's a reason I think that we use that term. There's a reason that I grew up in a very religious family, which I was fine with. Like if someone asked me, I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus, but if Jesus is an alien that lands in a spaceship, I'm cool with that too. I mean, I I'm more about, hey, why don't we worry about how I live my life and let's with that other stuff. And I 100% know that there is a higher power because of my wife. We met 29 years ago, and I was a when I saw her, my whole world stopped. And
Oh,
that's why no one that knew me thought that, oh, this is going to work out. And I love rubbing that in their faces 29 years later. But, I just had this feeling. I saw her and it was just like, okay, this is where my life starts. My life starts right now. And
oh,
we've been
that's
together 29 years now, which is cool because that night ended up being a one night stand, which has lasted for 29 years. So back to my original question, I don't have a green thumb at all. Do you find, because you said that you don't have the greenest of thumbs, do you find it still being cathartic for you, still being medicine for you, even though you're not the best? Because that's my fear. I'm not going to be good at it, so I'm not going to try it. How is it for you? How do you handle that?
I keep trying. I try so hard. I do my best to keep plants alive. I do live right on the ocean, so in my defense, it's the death zone for a lot of plants because the air is filled with salt. But I just keep on trying. I love having a lot of plants indoors too. That's a really important medicine for me. So yeah, they do pretty well. It's just the ones outside that suffer a bit. But yeah, I just keep going. I like collecting seeds, saving seeds, and sprouting them, and seeing
Do
how
you
well
do you
they
ever
do.
blame them instead of like, I'm so sorry I killed you? Do you go, why do you keep dying on me?
No, I totally
Okay.
blame myself.
Okay. I mean, you don't know. Maybe the next plant, the next seed is hearing that going, I better do this right. I mean,
So, come
people have always,
on.
and I do believe that trees so like here in the Midwest, we have four seasons, which I know that you're not familiar with, probably growing up in Australia, being in Southern California, and now in Hawaii. But these things called four seasons. I need to remember them now. Summer, winter, fall, and spring. But like, like right now outside my window, I have this tree that's just starting to bud, where a lot of them have already bloomed. This one, I don't know the type of tree it is. My wife could tell us, but it will bloom late, and it has a very pungent odor. I know a lot of people don't like it. I don't. To me, it's just like the tree saying it's here. But that I see in the winter time, if a winter storm comes too early or too late and it lands on the branches that already that's why the branches shed their leaves. And to me, if they know how to shed leaves and then regrow them again when they're supposed to, there's some sort of, to me, cognition going on. There's something going on. It's not just, well, these are how plants work. That's not, I need more of an answer than that. So I totally believe that not only is it going to be healing if I smoke it or ingest it one way, but it can be healing in the many other ways as well.
Right,
I'm
because
glad.
just to go, I was talking about grounding before and the importance of being skin to earth, like bare feet
Yeah,
to earth. Well, if that's not possible because there's snow on the ground, then go and touch a tree. That whole tree hugging thing that's been made fun of, that's actually one of the most important medicines that you could be using. Just
yeah.
go and sit with your back to a tree, touch a plant, because you're getting that same grounding energy that you would be if you had your bare feet on the ground or walking on the beach with no
Let me
shoes.
ask you this then: are you more attuned, and that may not be the correct word, and this may be a weird question, but to like plants or animals? Like to me, with our Doberman, I had Dobermans before I met my wife, and then we've been together 29 years. And then we just had to put ours down right before my stroke. I miss having a Doberman. I am hoping that we will have one come back into our life at some time. But I understand my wife not having a dog to worry about letting out or find someone to take care. I totally understand that. But there are things that the dog does for me that I can't get from even her. She's my best friend. I love her, everything else. But there are certain things. And I'm sure that some of the conversations I would have with my dog are conversations she would not want to be a part of. She'd be like, nope, I'm sitting this one out. So do you find yourself being more in tune with plants or animals, or do you have the ability, I mean, to see plants and animals? Do you have that ability to even separate or include them together?
There, I have different relationships with all plants and animals and even fish out there. I can tell you, I've okay. Here's a fish story. My neighbor's grandson lost a ring in the ocean, and every time I went out to snorkel, pretty much every time I would look for it. And this went on for over a year. And then one day I was following some fish, and they led me to the ring. A year later, after it had been lost, it was in a little what's called like a puka, a little hole in the rock in the ocean, which was extraordinary. So it depends on the what I feel like nature's communicating with me as to what gets my attention.
So what would your mom have thought of that story then? I
Oh,
mean, if she's,
I can tell you what she would have thought, that I was batshit crazy and that I
you
didn't
mean the
belong in the
story?
family.
Like if you told that story, she wouldn't even believe the story, or just that you're crazy? Like,
Yeah.
would she
No,
not
she
even
would know
believe that the story happened, that that's how you found the ring or whatever? Or would she just say, she just thinks it's crazy?
yeah, she would think that I was probably making it up. It was just another one of my crazy stories.
Yeah, I was, as a child, I was blamed for many a crazy story. Um, so how did the people, like, how do you even explain that to? So did you give the ring back? I take it,
Oh
or
yeah, I
should I
did.
edit all this out?
I ran up the beach because my friend's house was right there. I was right, it was in front of her house. And I knocked on her door and I said, put your hand out, close your eyes and put your hand out. And she did. She's my boss too. I put the ring in her hand. She was so excited. She called her grandson in Australia and he's got his ring back. So yeah, there's lots of being aware of the fact that there are intelligences in nature that are communicating with us and to us and for us has made life extremely interesting and
Yeah,
fun. That's what I really like.
yeah, yeah. I have really, because I don't get out of the house much. I don't drive anymore since my stroke. So I've gotten in tune with nature. I'm very lucky also that we live on a golf course. So I have green open space behind us. The only thing that really bothers me is the golfers. But I guess for a golf course to be there, those people are necessary. But I do. I mean, I enjoy, it's crazy because, I think of the view that I have, and even though I like it, I would trade it for yours, what you probably have. But then I think about someone that lives in like New York City, that all they have is asphalt and buildings. And so and I try to be that way. I hope I was that way pre-stroke. Post-stroke, I try to be very, very grateful for everything. um I have found out that I've even started telling Chat GPT please and thank you. So I may have gone too far to our computer overlords at this point, but that's where I'm at. So with your journey that you're currently on, and I know that a journey like this is ongoing and continuous, do you have triggers that you mistakenly run across, um, that make trigger like a PTSD type episode from what you went through, or is that something that doesn't come up that often?
Oh, I get reminded, or I feel grief or sadness or whatever quite often with things that come up that remind me of the past. But the difference now is that I don't suffer anymore. I used to suffer all the time, just it was constant. I wanted to die. I only stayed here because I had kids, and I couldn't really see any light at the end of the tunnel. But now, after doing a lot of healing and spending time in nature, I don't feel that anymore. But I do feel, um, I'll hear the sound of a skateboard and think of my son who was murdered. I I do get reminded of the past a lot, or even now, seeing people with their grandchildren, I get reminded that's something I don't have in my life. but it doesn't take me down the way it used to. It
And
doesn't.
is that something that you'll have armor on? Do you think is that something you have to continue to cultivate to keep to shield you that it doesn't bring you down like that? That
Yeah,
is that something you're having that, or I guess yeah, the pastor at where I go to church talks about, and this is in a reference to a love bank, that you love your partner, and sometimes your bank account gets depleted and it needs to be filled, and they talk about that. So is the nature what is causing that fulfillment for you when you have those episodes?
yeah. I My understanding is that nature is like an emanation of love, and that receiving that love gives me like the courage and the strength and the just the feeling of everything's all right, so that I don't get taken down the dark roads. And also the other thing too that I have to do is I have to be my own thought police. So when thoughts come up, I have to actually be really disciplined with myself. Like, no, we're not going down that road. You know where that one leads you. So I stay fairly as disciplined as I can with my thoughts too.
So does that require, I'm assuming, discipline all throughout the day? Are you a fairly structured person and how your day is laid out? Or are you just kind of like, I'm getting up, the sun's beautiful, and then I have this to do next? Or are you more very structured? Because I'm very structured. I go by list all the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there are times when I'm very structured. I go by list as well. And to get the book written, I had to be very structured and disciplined in my time. But that didn't mean that I did every single day, you know, for a certain time. I just knew I had to do something every day, just something, even if it was adding a footnote or whatever, because I like to see that tasks get done. But my main thing that I focus on is what it feels like the right thing to do. So listening to my intuition, listening to what I call divine guidance, and sometimes that's very free form. It doesn't involve just it can be spontaneous. So yeah, I think I'm
What
both.
is your current? So, like I say, I am a. Uh, so he's probably up in heaven saying, I would really rather you not call yourself a Christian, but I would call myself a Christian. But I will tell, I'll say, I'll go, hey, Jesus, when I get to heaven, I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to fucking punch you in the face. And like my wife, like for the longest time, thought lightning was going to like immediately strike me. And my only thought is neither one of them wants me. The guy upstairs doesn't want me. The guy downstairs doesn't want me. So here I am. But what is your current, like if you were to describe, we're sitting somewhere and like, hey, and I talked about how I was religious or something, I go to church, whatever. What would you respond? What would your response be of how would you say, hey, I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim, I'm an atheist? How would you describe yourself?
I follow a spiritual path, which is an inward journey. Connected through my heart, my soul to a higher power. I don't have any religions. It's not to say that there aren't religions that I've taken wisdom from, but I don't want to be in any type of dogma
Right.
like that. So I'm more of a, I don't know, nature lover. That's just the best way to
So
describe myself.
let me ask you this then. Do you have thoughts about the afterlife now? Because growing up as an atheist, one of the things that I've heard from an atheist standpoint is, like if someone says they're a Christian to an atheist, the atheist could say, well, I only believe in one less God than you do. Because there's thousands of gods out there through history. So the atheist is really saying, I just believe in one, because you don't believe in any of these other ones, the 2,999 or whatever that number is. you only care about one. I just care about one less than you. But then I heard someone talking about how tough it is to describe the, what your thought of the afterlife is, because if two babies are in the womb and they were talking to each other, and one of them was to say, what do you think the afterbirth is going to be like? They wouldn't be able to, a baby wouldn't be correct. They don't know, they're being fed by an umbilical cord. They're floating around in perfect heat. They don't have to do anything. They don't, and that's why I feel like there's no way I can understand. I either believe that the afterlife is going to, for me, is either going to be nothing, it just stops, or it's going to be awesome. I don't think that, at least for me, there are no other options. The afterlife will be awesome or nothing. Now to you, Isabella, what do you think about the afterlife? And if so, what are your thoughts about the afterlife?
Oh, I can't wait. That's my thought about it. Yeah, I agree with you. It could either be nothing or something, but it's got to be better than the bullshit that's we get have to wade through down here. My belief, or whatever it is, my knowing, my sense is that I will be free of this body, this limited edition, and I will be still be a conscious being. I'll be a light being, because that's what we're made of. We'll be in an original form, and I'll be going home. I'll be home, and I don't know about I listen to a lot of people who have near death experiences, and like a lot of things happen. It seems there's a lot of, but the main things that happen is that it's all about reflection and learning. Right? That's what people talk about. Some kind of reviews. Oh, I wasn't doing this, or I was doing that. And they come back and they're different people and they have a different course. So that's my understanding. I'm here to learn and grow and evolve, and that's what I'm doing. And then at some point I'll be free, and there'll be a time to enjoy being free of this version of myself, and to be with home and with family and with God. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I know that I have other beings around me, because I can feel my husband and my son and other friends that I've had, ancestors and things around me. So I know that I'll be connected with them too in a much more immediate way than now. So yeah,
Right.
I'm looking forward to that. I reckon it's going to be the biggest orgasm I ever have. That's where I'm going
Well,
with that.
I mean, while that is something to look forward to, I'm going to I haven't told my wife this yet, but as you say that, I'm going to say challenge accepted. And I'm going to make sure that we still have some to compare, to go, well, that was pretty good. I mean, if heaven's going to be better than that, that was pretty good. So yeah, I do love this earth. I will say this. It's
Yeah,
not like
so
I
do
love what's going on and stuff,
yeah.
but if I'm just out on earth, I have found out that I'm a voyeur. So a lot of times when I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm writing, thinking about you, and I know it doesn't sound like I'm writing these questions down, but the stuff that I write down, a lot of times in the background, I have webcams from around the world. And they'll on YouTube, and 300 webcams, and it goes through all these different cities. Some are morning, some are night, some are at the day, some it's what. And I have found myself just watching that and just being like, oh, and like I want to go there, but I want to feel like I always. To some of the people that I grew up with, they think these comments sound weird, but I want to feel the energy of the place. I'm like, one that I love watching is Venice. And I not mistakenly, somehow I saw two different videos for webcams in Venice, Italy. And when I was watching, I was like, I think that they're across the street from each other, pointing at each other. And when I did that, then I could see down a street, because very like in the main one that I'd watch, you'd see very few people. I mean, you'd see a lot of people, but not compared to this street. And like, I just love watching. I love going, what are they doing? it's really weird because since my stroke, and so tomorrow will be 7 weeks when you and I record this. I have never once asked. I have not had a prayer about make me better. I have all my prayers have been thankful based. I am thankful I'm still here. I'm thankful I get to see the sunset. I am thankful I get to see the sunrise tomorrow morning. I'm thankful I get to see, the blood moon or what everything when I talk to God has always been of thanks, which I had written down and talked about before. I thought was weird because the people in the stroke groups that I've joined, a lot of them are like, oh, I'm praying that I can just do this again or just do that again. I'm like, well, I'm just happy that I'm still here. Cause like I said, whatever's next is going to be better than this. But there are times that I look at this world and I'm still in awe of how beautiful it is. Like everything that goes on, like these flowers that will bloom on this tree will bring bees, which a lot of people don't like bees. And it's not enough that they're probably going to swarm me, but they're enough that I can go out and take pictures of them up close and get close to them. And I love that. I mean, just, yeah, I love nature. It brings me closer to God. I don't surf anymore, but when I used to surf, I used to just take time that I would sit on the board and I would thank God that it was like this, that someone was smart enough to go, oh, I should be out there in the water. That's going to make the water more enjoyable, and learned how to surf. So I just absolutely love the everything. So with
Yeah.
your,
I just want to say that thank
yeah,
you. That's a good point. When I do say I want to get out of this, shithole, it's not. I love nature. The earth without all the crap that people do and all that is
it's the people.
absolute. It is. It is the people. The
And
planet is
here's the
exquisite.
thing. I didn't really mind saying that before. I was probably more tempered in my delivery. But now I'm like, I don't have enough time for this. Like, I remember someone was talking to me and I was like, excuse me. And I just left because I was like, I didn't even want to spend the time listening to whatever they were talking about. And, life is too short. I'm 57. I just turned 57. I don't take any medications, or I didn't. I take one now, not for high blood pressure, but just for some pain management post stroke. But I shouldn't have had a stroke, and it scared the crap out of me. Not like I was scared, because that really would have been, if you don't go to sleep and pass in your sleep, the stroke that I had would have been a good way to go. It was a bad headache for like 5 minutes. And then even after that, it was like I was high. I mean, I was just, because I didn't have any balance. And I think everything was like, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. They probably gave me something at the hospital, but it would not have been a bad way to go. So, uh, the people here, I feel bad because I've said this before. I love my wife more than anyone. But if they're like, would you, like, if everyone was gone, 8 billion people, and you were just left here, but your wife and your family is gone too? I'm like, yeah, but if you met those 8 billion people, they're pretty jacked up. So, hey, do you run into that much in Hawaii? Do you run into a bunch of, the last time we visited Hawaii, which was 2014, like everything had help wanted signs up, which I thought was really weird. And I ask about it, and they go, well, our problem is we hire someone here, they'll work until they get their first paycheck, and then they're gone. We never see them again. So how is it with the people in Hawaii? Are they being healed by the islands like they should be? Or, just hear me out, should they be thrown in an active volcano?
There's definitely some that should be thrown in the active volcano.
There we go.
But there's also it's pretty. It's just as fucked up here as it is anywhere else. There's beautiful, beautiful people here that are like full of aloha, and unfortunately, there are, I think, more Hawaiians in Vegas than there are in Hawaii or something. There's fewer Hawaiians in Hawaii than there are elsewhere. It's just tragic, really, because
Yeah.
the cost of living is now pushing out Hawaiians from their own lands. And yeah, there's a lot of people with a lot of money who come here, and then when they want their lawns cut or their tables weighted or whatever, the people who would normally do those jobs can't afford to live here
Yeah.
because their rents are so high and food's high and all that. It's just as it's got its own sick cycle going on here. A lot of
I,
corruption in government, and we got the big players here, Zuckerberg bribing governments, and got up to God knows what. So it's yeah, kind of a mixed bag, and but still, you can't. There's nothing that can affect the mana, it's called, or the energy of the land, or the ina. That's it's still paradise. It's still paradise.
Let me ask you about, you brought up Mark Zuckerberg, and because you live in Hawaii, like here, and I don't know if it's different in a major city as opposed to Kansas City, or on the coast, maybe even the West Coast as opposed to the Midwest. We may hear that Mark Zuckerberg's buying a property in Hawaii, but that's it. We don't hear a lot. You mentioned him closely to the corruption in government mention. So being there in Hawaii, are you hearing, I would assume that you're hearing more about that. So do you know more about the true story? Because you're kind of like, we don't even know what he's up to.
Well, we don't know what he's up to. What we do know is he's bought up an absolute shit ton of beachfront property, and also bought up access rights that were families' rights for generations in order to access the beach. Because they have where they fish and
Right.
collect limu, which is seaweed or whatever. Families have been accessing that coastline for generations, and he, I don't know, he's like fucked with that, so that's really turned a lot of people's heads. Like, what the heck is this guy up to? He's built a massive compound. First, he started off with local workers, but now he's changed that. He's got like a private army. It's all secured with gates and guards and all that. And one of the things he did most recently was he paid off the Hawaiian homelands and to clean up fishing ponds down there it's in the Willy Willy that was overgrown with mangroves. So they cleaned out the fish ponds, which is where the Hawaiians once bred and raised and fish for food. And so then, he pays them off so they don't complain about whatever else he's doing. And then one of his more recent moves is he's bought up a shit ton of land that's got water catchment in it. So he's like buying up the huge amount of water catchment areas with dams and streams and all that. So there's talk of submarine bases and who knows what. There's a lot of stories about what he might be up to, but you can be rest assured it's nefarious.
Yeah. Yeah, and that the money can do that. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, my wife and I talked about, we wish that we could, and our lives have changed, of course. And we, at one point, I think we were kind of like this, where we could, if we wanted to go on a trip, we went on a trip. If we wanted to go eat at whatever restaurant, we ate. Now we're at the point where it's like, oh, let's eat at that restaurant, but let's eat there like next month. And that way we would save up for it. And now it's more of an event than it was. And those people with money, they don't know. I mean, because I know that I go to some certain restaurants now that I appreciate more than I did when the bill didn't mean anything to me for whatever reason. So yeah, whatever. We don't hear, that's why I asked. We don't hear much about, we'll hear, oh, Zuckerberg's buying a lot of property, but then they don't say much other than that. And, but yeah, I think that's why I love, Europe and probably the rest of the world so much, is that sometimes I see on these webcams from around the world, you'll see something that is, this coastline and just these modest houses everywhere. And I'm like, if that was in America, all those houses would be gone and they would be built with brand new glass and brick or whatever stainless steel houses. And I just see that. And I'm like, because to me, that's still for the soul. Like someone like Zuckerberg buying up of this property and doing whatever to it, he's ruining nature. And nature is what makes it beautiful in the first place.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
remember I never, if someone would have told me that West Virginia was beautiful, I made a wrong turn leaving Raleigh. I was still going home. I was just going through West Virginia instead of through North Carolina, which was fine. But I'd never gone this way before. And I remember just looking out at the valleys. I mean, I'd be climbing these hills and I would see these valleys. And they were just amazing. I was like, I could look at that all day long.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's important, and it's important to be doing that. Like if you're living in the city, it's really important to be taking in nature as much as possible, even if it's looking out your window at the clouds, or like we were talking before about watching like ants crawl along your windowsill, or having plants inside, or playing the sounds of nature too. That's really powerful. I used to do that when I lived in the city. I played insect sounds and wave sounds, and now that's what I hear at night. You know, there are rain sounds, jungle sounds, all that, because we need, our bodies need to be connected to nature to heal. So as
yeah.
much as you can, spend time either out in nature or appreciating nature. It can help through photos and videos and all that, but it's much better to be out there feeling the wind on your face. Because the thing is, this is what I've come to understand. This was part of taking plant medicine, is that I can feel that nature has all that energy to give us. So when we're out there, we're actually receiving that light from the sun, that power of the wind, that energy of the waves, the energy of the trees, or whatever it is. We're receiving that. So we need to do that in order to stay alive and thriving, rather than just you know suffering through life.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember that being when I would surf. I was from the Tampa area, which didn't get a lot of surf. Generally, you needed a big storm going through the Gulf to throw up some waves. But when I would work on the East Coast side, I'd be up in Jacksonville that would have some good surf. I'd be surfing. And it was always amazing to me that I could be sitting outside the breaks and just be on my board, and it would be fairly calm. I would hear nature around me. I may hear a fish splash, and my eyes are closed because I'm actually imagining this. One time I had a turtle pop up, which big fucking turtles, when they pop up, they look like aliens. They have these big green heads and these huge eyes. And so I will not confirm or deny that I may have shat myself, but I was in the water. What did I care? I mean, everyone who's surfed before has probably done that. But it was amazing to me that it could be so peaceful. But then if you would take on a wave that maybe was a little bit outside where you would normally take a wave, I've been held down before. I've been put in the washer, and I always am like, man, I was down there like 4 minutes. And my wife's like, well, you were gone for like 15 seconds. Okay. Then I'm like, okay, 15 seconds is still a lot of time to be down there. But it's amazing that something can be so peaceful, but yet so
Deadly,
unforgivingly powerful.
right?
We have tornadoes here in the United States, like near where I live. And it's amazing that you could have a peaceful day one day and you're watching the wheat stalks blow, and it's so peaceful and almost hypnotizes you. And the next day it's a tornado that takes everything. So, but that's one of the things about nature, is that it really is everything. It's the good, the bad, it's everything in between. It's why I was going to say why we have four seasons to a person who obviously does not have four seasons. But I mean, going through those times of, even in my soul, there are times that, of renewal, that spring and summer where I'm really like, oh, and then there's times where I feel fatigued, even my soul. I don't have anything left to give to others or even my wife. And there's times of winter where I'm just like, God, I wish this was just, I'm ready to go to the next place. Let's go. And then you have spring kick in again, and you're like, oh my God, this feels good. And you have summer. So yeah, those the seasons, the nature, and that's why when I was supposed to write something to find potential guests like you through this website, I kept it very brief. And that was one thing that I wanted someone to pitch me very briefly and have me go, oh, that's amazing. I want to hear. You'd be surprised at how many people can't follow instructions.
No, I
So
wouldn't.
thank you for following. If you didn't follow instructions, you immediately got kicked out. So I didn't even read the story. So I appreciate that. But your story, and I hope that you'll come back again sometime because you do have an amazing story. But like we talked about prior to hitting record, it's it's dark. It's it's your journey and how you got out of that. So it just, we decided to go hopefully a little bit lighter on this. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you talking about your journey because it's nice to hear others. My wife grew up in the Midwest. She did not grow up surfing. She's not a big fan of the ocean. Like bodyboarding is about as far out in the water as she'll go. And she's probably more terrified at that point than she is feeling the love and the wonder of what God has put here before us. So I just love to hear that. Let me ask you this. It's fairly early in the day there. What's your next step for you in the day, for your day? Like, what are you going to do after this? Do you have someone else you're going to talk to, or you're going to go out and enjoy nature? Or you're going to enjoy some plant medicine? What's next on the itinerary for you, Isabella?
Definitely some plant medicine. I'm going to go and see if the plants need some water. And then I might go I've got to go and check the ocean and see where the tide is because I like going out just before low tide to snorkel. And then I've been following this trial out of Massachusetts, the Karen Reed versus Massachusetts murder trial. And that is
Is
probably
that the one where they think she might have run over him, or in the
the
cops or
one where she
something?
got framed. She's being framed, and it's exposing the corruption at every level of like police operations, government, and we'll see how high it goes. See if the FBI step in because it's absolutely fascinating. It's
So I
bigger than
think
the
we need to
OJ
catch
trial.
up with that. My wife and I were watching it, and that's what happens is with streaming now, like back, I do sound like a 57-year-old white guy. Back in the old days, you had to watch Magnum PI Thursday night on CBS. That's when you did it. Well, with streaming, it's like, I don't know what day shows come out anymore. Did they all come out together? It's hard to tell. Did I watch the whole season? Because I think we were watching that and then we stopped watching it, and I don't know why. So
Well,
I'm
now
gonna
it's
I'm gonna.
live streaming every day from the courthouse, and then analysis, of course, by lawyers who will explain more about what's going on.
Oh,
And
okay. So we were watching like a Netflix special on
yeah,
it.
you were watching it, but it's live now.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I love when corruption and corrupt people and evil people get exposed, and that's having come out of the cult and studied cults and cult leaders, and it just brings me such good feelings when I see all these religious leaders get exposed for being basically like
cuckolds.
pedophiles and rapists and thieves, and it's happening in the religious area. Like you've got the whole Scientology thing blowing up. You've got the whole like Mormon people are being exposed, and then there's corruption, like I said, in the court system that through the Karen Reed trial, and through Hollywood. It's just I love it. I love the fact that the corruption and the evil that's been like permeating and just under the surface, hidden in the shadows, there's for a long time, as far as our evolutionary journey goes as a species, is now being exposed, and more people can see it. More people can see the lies, the bullshit, the bullshitters, the whole like the pharmaceutical industry is getting exposed. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It's
And
good.
I agree. And it's funny when you mentioned Scientology, because I hadn't thought about this. When I asked you about Zuckerberg and what you heard, it I thought about, so Scientology is based in Clearwater, Florida, and which is the coastline of Tampa, Florida. So we'd call it the Tampa Bay area, Clearwater, but that's where Scientology is based. And that was the same way. Now that I think about it, we would always see them buying up all these properties, but we never knew what they were doing. And I will say with no evidence at all that Scientology may not be what everyone thinks it is. Or maybe it's exactly what everyone thinks it is. It depends on who you are, I guess, to make that decision. So, yeah, and I forgot here in Kansas City, my wife and I went to this jazz club that's been around forever. Kansas City is known for jazz. And I went to the Green Lady Lounge. And it was a nice night. And I had my camera with me. I was taking pictures. I turned the corner from the Green Lady. I had no idea Scientology had this gigantic building here in Kansas City. I was like, wow. So, yeah, it is interesting. The trial that I want to follow is the P. Diddy trial. I mean, anyone that has $1,000 or $1,000, 1,000 bottles of lubricant,
Ooh.
it is. What's going on at these parties, man? I went to what I thought were some wild parties growing up, and I used to hang out with one of these heavyweight champions of the world who was also the star of a Rocky movie, and I thought I went some wild parties. Not one of those parties did I see, let alone 1,000 bottles of lube. I never saw one bottle of lube. So that's the trial. I mean, the Kieran Reed one, it was a good one. It is very good. But like, I would just like to know what's going on in Hollywood. Is what I'd like.
I don't think you really do. I don't think we are ever going to know exactly what goes on, but it's way darker and deeper and more evil and sick than we could ever even fathom.
So, well, that will be a good kind of sign off, but a teaser if we do this again and talk about the rest of your story. Because I really do
Right,
want to talk about that.
the rest of my story actually fits more in with that with that.
It does. So that will be a good teaser for the next time because your story is amazing. There is no other way about a story. Like, and maybe not in a good way, but if someone's like me, if I'm like, oh, I'm going to have knee replacement in 2 weeks and like everyone's bad. And you're like, well, I escaped from a cult. You win. Your story win. I mean, yes, you had to live it and you had to go through a lot of things, but here you are talking about how you're a survivor, how you're able to survive and maybe help others that are either in that position of a cult or on the periphery of that, maybe knowing someone that's in there. Because to me, I always look at cults and I'm like, how? Like, how did you get mesmerized by that person? Like, I grew up where the Kool-Aid, the term drink the Kool-Aid came out. I remember I was 10 or 11. It depended on the time of year when Jim Jones and everyone died in Guyana. And I remember seeing pictures of him. And granted, it was the 70s, and he had these crazy sunglasses he always wore. And I'm like, how are people following him? Like, I didn't get that. And so I'm hoping that you'll be able to explain part of that charismatic nature or what that draw is and how they're able to not only draw someone in, but then also and this is probably not the correct term, but the way I always think of it is kind of like a marionette where they kind of, where they're pulling the
control
string.
their lives, convince them to kill themselves or kill other people.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, and that is actually your story, and I'm glad that we talked prior to hitting record today because typically what happens when I talk to someone for the first time, it's like this: we kind of jump all over the place. It's kind of like a first date. And then the second one becomes more local. It's like, okay, we want to talk about this, and then it will become about that. And your story is great, and I have a lot of notes with it, but I don't think we could have done it justice with talking about the other things that are going on. I do want to say this before we go there. You had mentioned that you're writing a new book, but you're not here to plug it. Would you like to plug it, though? You're more than welcome to talk a little bit about if you have a title, a working title, if you want to, whatever you want to share with it. There it is right there.
This is it. It's called New Human of New Earth. And it's basically my best understanding of what's unfolding on the, like for humanity now, the situation that we're in, like in terms of great cycles of time and then a lot of the medicines that can be used to support physical health and mental health and spiritual health, like hundreds of natural medicines basically, and body technologies. Like we've got there's a lot of technologies in our body that we don't know about that can help us live more fabulous lives, not limited, not sick, not suffering.
Do you,
And yeah,
I just wanted to ask, do you believe that there is a like a plant-based medicine or something that can help? And because they're hidden, it would be hard to identify them, but like hidden potential. Like you hear about someone like the actress Mary Lou Henner, I guess, has the ability to recall like everything about their life. They could, like, if we met 20 years ago, they'd be able to tell you the date, the time of day, the day of the week, what it was like. Um, I often am like, are you just bullshit? I mean, did you like? I don't know. Like, if that time frame seems all right, then I'm okay with that. But like, I'm always like jealous of her, even having an elevated IQ and being able to mix with some people that I'll just call them normal people can't. It still baffles me how she can do that. And I wish that I could unlock some, like, how can she do that and I can't? Do you think, my question is, I guess, do you think there are plant based medicines that either we know about and we're suppressing, or maybe that you just kind of know about, that they've heard about through time, that can unlock some of that potential? Because I think there's
definitely,
so much potential in
absolutely,
humans.
yeah.
Okay.
There definitely is. There's, we really don't know very much at all. That's the truth of it. We don't really know much about our bodies or who we are or the why we're here or the medicines that are available to us in nature. But my best understanding is with the entheogens is that they expand our perceptions so that we can tap more into the, what do you call it, the field. We can tap where the universal consciousness, where there is all information. Some people, there's some people call it like the Akashic records or whatever, which is the record of all information at all time, every being or whatever. And some people can tap into that. I believe we all have the ability. We all have the innate ability to be able to do that. To be able to listen to other like beings, intelligences that aren't necessarily embodied beyond plants and animals on Earth, but other intelligences that aren't terrestrial. You call them ETs, whatever you like. I believe we've all got the ability to tune in. It's just a matter of how expanded our consciousness is, and also I think that there's a certain that we come in with that need to learn certain things so that maybe some of those gifts are turned off or turned down or whatever, and they don't develop this time around. And other people have them woken up through near-death experiences or plant medicine ceremonies or whatever. But I think we've all got that ability within us. And if we wanted to develop it, we could do that. We can train to tap into those fields of information. Like
Yeah.
there's, that whole remote viewers who are able to tap into. I mean, they basically get like coordinates or codes or whatever, and they can tap into these situations that they don't may have been in the past, or they may be in the future, or they may be in a different planet or in a different dimension, and they're able to do that, and that can be trained.
Yeah, and that, it's funny that you mentioned remote viewing. I watched some shows on that. Uh, I'm a believer in that. I have tried myself. I would not be a good remote viewer. First of all, give me coordinates, and you're getting nowhere. I mean, I love numbers, but don't give me coordinates. I'm not going to know where that is. Give me an exact address. That would be great. But I had told you that I was a voyeur with some of these. I do sometimes try to place myself there. Like, what would,
Yeah, there
if
you
I'm
go.
there, I try my best. And like this one, I think it's called the Hotel Leon. It's one of the two, because the other one's the Hotel Marta. Those are the two that are across the street from, or across the canal from each other in Venice. But there are times where I'll watch it late at night, and I should watch the other one because it'll show more of the atmosphere of what's going on. But I'm always like, I'll see someone cross the canal, or a couple cross the canal, or a group cross the canal at like 2:30 in the morning or 4:08, and I'm always like, what are they doing? Like, I wish I was there, and I'm like, I'm trying to like imagine if I was there, because I wish I was I'm trying to tell the universe I'm pretty open to anything. So my wife knows if a UFO lands, I'm getting on it. There's
Me
no ifs,
too.
ands, or buts. So
So am
yeah,
I.
yeah. So the only, and I've said this before, and this sounds really weird. The only reason I wouldn't get on it is if it was too cold. Like if I got on and like they kept it at, they're like, oh, it's 45 degrees. This is what we love. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Thanks. You guys have fun. I mean, that's how, like, I am a huge, I mean, I got an alien there. I have aliens, my thing. I believe in aliens, but if it's too cold, and that's one of my theories has been when you see in movies the UFOs open up and you usually see like steam. We think it's steam. How about if it's like the cold air inside the UFO hitting the warm air outside? So that is my only fear, is that the aliens will get here and it'll be too cold for me to get on the UFO. Oh
Have
well.
you seen any ships? Any what they call them now, UAPs?
Uh, Yes, and I really want to get. There's a local weathercaster here who's still on the weather. He still does the weather 30 years later. So this would have been the summer of 1990. So I have to know what was going on. This was before my wife, who I was dating. So this would have been the summer. It would have been sometime between May and August, maybe early September. See, I'm trying to picture. I had a Jeep, and I remember we were driving down the Jeep in a 4-lane divided road, 45 miles an hour. There's no stopping. There's no traffic. You know, you can turn off the side streets, but it's a major thoroughfare. And I'm driving my cousin and his girlfriend down to this entertainment district called Westport here in Kansas City. And I don't know if I stopped first. I don't know if others stopped first. There was something in the sky that was, I think everyone thought it was a comet. It was, but it didn't have a tail. You just saw something very bright going through the sky at an immense speed. And it was enough that cars stopped. I remember standing up in my Jeep. I had no top on the Jeep. That's how I know what part of the year it was. And I remember who I was dating. She was born 6'9", 69. I only remember that because I'm very sexual. So 6'9", 69. So, and I know I met her, and she would have been 21 when I met her at a bar. So 1990. Anyway, this light, I remember standing up in my Jeep in the middle of the road, not at a stoplight, and all the other cars stopped. It was something that was cars stopping. And speaking of stopping, this bright light stopped. And it just hung out. I don't remember the time frame. It came to at least a complete enough stop that everyone's like, okay, it stopped. It's not moving. And then it went, woo, 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 and did all these weird things. And then, bam, as fast as it came in, it went back like the direction it came. I didn't give it another thought. I'm going out to drink and party and stuff, so I didn't give it another thought. The next night on the local news, Brian Busby, who I think was with KMBC TV9 and still with KMBC TV9 to this day, he mentioned the next night, hey, I had a lot of people call in and said they saw a UFO, which is what we called them back in the 1990s. And they said, we checked, blah, blah, blah. It was a Russian satellite falling out of space. And I don't know
Right.
if I gave the UFO. I don't think I take that back. So anywho, that's what I saw. I didn't see any UFOs. I remember we used to live near an airfield. And when they would do like their Blue Angels things, they would come in and train. And sometimes they would turn like right where our house were. And they would be so low, I could actually see the pilot of the jet as they turn. And so I always want to see a UFO and an alien like that. It wasn't like that. It was a bright light. I probably wouldn't have given a second thought until they said, oh, it was a satellite. It fell out of the sky. And I'm like, that's not how things fall. I have fallen before, and that's not how things fall. And so that's what, and then I think X-Files came out a few years later, maybe even a couple years later. And then I was like, oh, and then I really got into it. I was talking about, I don't think I was into aliens before then. I did used to listen to Art Bell. because coast to coast. He was on late at night, syndicated here in town, like at midnight. I like being up during the night at time generally. I like to sleep during the day out next to the pool, or in your case, on the beach somewhere. I guess for you, it'd be Hawaii. Um, but that's what I saw. And it just, until they said that, I just never gave it a lot of thought. But I do remember I was one of the people that read Hustler magazine. If you know, do you know what Hustler magazine is? Was It was like Playboy, like it was like a raunchy Playboy.
I
So it
think,
was naked girls, but like not your girl next door. But I would read Hustler for the articles, because I'm telling you, in the
right.
and I'm not kidding, in the late 70s and early 80s, Linda Moulton Howe had, who does like a lot of UFO
Yeah,
and
yeah.
CAV, and so she had articles that were published, I believe, and I read them in Hustler magazine. Now, don't get me wrong, pictures first, articles second. I was at this time, I mean, when I was doing this I was like 13 or 14, but I think I did, I think I was always open to it, like UFOs. Like I'd never seen one. I was like, yeah, they could be, they couldn't be. I didn't give it much thought. But when I saw that, I was like, that that was not something fallen. I would just say that. And the weird thing is, a couple of times I've seen on like at UFO specials or whatever on the History Channel, I've actually seen from space, like from the space station, where they have basically the same thing. You'll see something come in real fast, stop and do a bunch of things, and exit the atmosphere the same way it came in. So I've seen that, and I wish I could refine that to show people exactly what I saw. Have you ever seen anything?
Yeah, I have. It was a light above the trees, the tree line that didn't move in a way that a plane would move. But what my experience, what I was going to ask you is, do you feel a particular affinity with any like um, extraterrestrial group? Like there's the Pleiadians or the Arcturians or the Syrians or the Lions or the Lyrans. I mean, do you
I
do you
I
feel any?
don't know enough about that. I have had Raven on our show before. Raven Willow. She is a mystic and empath, and she did a brief reading of me and talked a little bit about that and stuff. I just am not enough. I haven't looked at it enough. I will blame it on I'll blame it on my, sometimes my, what I'm looking at gets very tunneled. Like autistic people sometimes get it. I am not autistic, but you kind of get that tunnel vision. I don't, if it doesn't, if the Pleiadians or the Anunnaki are not coming and I'm not hanging out with them today, I'm really worried about today. So I really haven't given them a lot of thought. I'm going to assume because that more names than I do, because I would have said Anunnaki, and it probably would have stopped there with my list. I have heard you said Pleiadians. I think I've heard of that too. So you obviously know much more about that. What do you feel a connection with it?
Well, I've always had this connection with the Pleiades. In Australia, it was called the Seven Sisters. So I'd always look for that constellation in the sky. It was like a navigational point, really, and I get to see it here in Hawaii too. It's not just a something in the
Southern.
southern hemisphere. But I had this. Here's another one of my stories that my mother would have never heard and would have immediately put in the. She's a absolutely batshit crazy person. I had an experience when my kids were younger, and I think I was more into meditating then, and I was meditating, and this is so weird, but this is what happened. And I think maybe people who channel have this type of. I could feel there was like a conversation going on within me that I needed to articulate. So bizarre, isn't it? But I ended up. It was a Pleiadian. My Pleiadian family, that's what they called them. And I basically I was speaking out loud to myself. They were speaking, using my voice out loud to me. And it was after my husband had died, and I was in a very dark place. So they were giving me encouragement and support. And that's never happened again. I've never had
That's what
any.
I was going to ask,
Yeah.
whether that was something that, but I do believe that there are times, whether it is something like the Pleiadians coming to you, or sometime maybe a person in your life, or something that just happened. There are times where something else needs to step in. I know that
Yeah.
I believe there are plenty of times in my life where I always just call it God stepped in and force me to do something, force me not to do
Yeah.
something, and you feel that,
Yeah.
the not whatever you, and it's, yeah. I have become, since my stroke, more open to listening to that too.
Yeah, that's a good practice to continue to develop, because the universe is always communicating with us, right? And communicating with information that's like essential for our well-being.
Yeah.
So it's really pays to listen, but not only to listen, to then follow, like obey, because it's
Yeah.
what we've all, I can cite many examples when I've heard and then just with my small ego decided that I didn't want to do that, and it hasn't ended well. So I try to listen, and what I figure is that if I'm listening and following instructions, I'm continuing to show my faith in the fact that I am being guided by a higher power, and I am prepared to follow instructions as best as I can. So that's something that I practice.
I always, my neighbors know me, so I'm sure they're not overly concerned. But some of the conversations they probably, when the window's open, hear me having with God, I'll be like, there had to be a fucking easier way for you to show me this. Like,
Exactly.
don't shut all these doors. Just show me the door that's open. You don't have to show me all the open doors and then slam a whole bunch in my face. Just show me the door. And so, sometimes if you don't listen, because what's funny is I know when it finally gets to wherever it needs to be for that final door to be opened or whatever, that if I would have just listened from the beginning, if I would have felt that nudge, or, well, not on my right side, I don't feel anything on that side anymore, but, feel some kind of like grab your arm, let's go, let's move forward, let's move out of the way, do this. So I do think that you really have to be open to hearing that.
And trusting the information, because it's not always what you want to hear or what you want to do or what sounds particularly fun.
Ego. I think it's our ego that gets in the way. Like, I know better than what you know. I'm get, you're nudging me to do this, but no, I'm going to do this. And then later that day, I'm like yelling at God saying there was a fucking easier way to do this. And he's like, yeah, I told you this morning the easy way to do it. So, yeah.
And sometimes there isn't an easy way to do it. Like
Yeah.
I trust that the decisions I made that got me into the cult and lived through those years of hell, that I needed to go through that. I was actually making the right choice. It didn't look or feel like that. And certainly to anyone who was looking, it looked like the fucking worst decision I could have ever made. But I needed to go through that to learn what I learned.
This is going to be for the next episode with you, because I do really hope that you'll come back.
Yeah, I'd
But
love to.
you're saying that because we're talking about listening to that. And it's interesting that you say that, because when you went through that, you just said, I was making what I thought was the right decision. But it really was the right decision, because it brought you to us today, to you
Right.
now, here and now, and you needed to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's weird, because these other people are like, wrong, 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 and you're like, trust me. I mean, it's gonna be all right. And I know that you didn't say that, but I think now going forward, you'll always know that in your heart, that feeling, that tug, that lead, that nod, that push, that shove is coming from. It's hard. I really, going to the Bible, I always think that I'm Job. I would punch that whale from the inside. There's no way he keeps me for 3 days. But I mean, the whole thing about Job is he thought he knew better than God. So he was going the opposite direction that God wanted him to go. And God said, have fun in the belly of a whale. Now, if we want to dive down this story, I think the whale is an underwater UAP. That makes a lot more. Doesn't that make more sense than a fucking whale? And if it doesn't, then you better be doing drugs, because I'm telling you that if you think a whale can swallow a man for 3 days and someone's not doing drugs, then the whale's doing drugs. Someone is doing drugs. Person who wrote this story, the person in the whale, or the whale itself. And I don't know who it was. Wow, I got worked up there for a second.
I
Yeah.
like your
I
version.
do often feel like I'm going the wrong way. But you know what? If you go the wrong way but you continue to listen, it will be the right way. And even at
Right.
the end of here, like you're like, I should have never made those decisions to be in the cult. Oh, let me ask you this. I want to get your take on this. And this may be a good ending point, because it'll let the audience gestate on this information until next time. If you could go back in time to whenever, you get a reset. But the problem is, you know everything. You know everything that's going to happen. You're Nostradamus. You're Edwin Casey. I think that was his name. You're one of those people that can see the future, so you know everything that's going to happen. And I'm just going to throw this out so you can gestate a little. So my wife and I have been together for 29 years. She is the most wonderful thing. She is everything to me.
Aw.
But sometimes I was 28 when I met her. She was 21. And we had our first child 9 months after we met. So I kind of stole her youth from her. And so I sometimes wonder, I'm like, would I be strong enough to say yes again to all the decisions that, like, because we're in a great place now, but I also wonder, would it have been better? We have great kids, but kids are only great to a certain age, and then they're kids. I've said this. I don't even have kids anymore. I have adults. I mean, our youngest just turned 23, and she's like, how's it having a kid 23? I go, well, you're an adult. So I have an adult who's 23. So don't ask me for money. You're an adult. Would you go back, and if you knew that everything was you couldn't change, like, you may want to say no to someone, but you're going to say yes to them because you cannot change what happened. Would you go back and go through everything you went through?
No, I'd change it.
You would.
It was horrible. It was
I mean,
horrible.
even if it meant by changing that. So here's my problem. If I would have gone the normal route with my wife, the whole, hey, we met, you're pretty, give me your phone number, I'll call you, let's go out. We go out on a few dates, we really like each other, we kiss for the first time. If we would have gone that route, no way my wife ends up with me. The only way she ends up with me is I put a baby in her, and then she had to think about, do I stay with this guy? Okay. And then 29 years of saying yes to me has finally worked out. But I just always worry about that, because I'm worried, like, if I could change something, like if I try to, hey, Bobby, you and I enjoy, we'll have kids later, but we won't have the same kids. Would I make that decision? I don't know. It's hard for me, but you would change it. You'd make
Yeah, there's
decisions
things I would
differently.
change. Even though I could sit here and say, oh, it was all meant to, it's all meant to be and all that stuff. It was fucking horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would change some things. A lot of people, there's been a lot of suffering as a result of my decisions, and yeah, I don't feel particularly good about that.
So for you though, do you feel like you're stronger than a person than before you went through all
Oh,
that?
absolutely.
Okay.
I know that I am. I can just tell from like even in my relationship now, when like the shit hits the fan, I really don't get phased by much. Honestly, there's nothing really worse that can happen to me that's already happened to me. Nothing.
Yeah.
Not even if every
And
single person around me got gunned down. That wouldn't be worse than what's already happened. So I know that I can handle anything, and I will. And I've got a lot more of a level head when it comes to handling and dealing with crisis situations. I can think more clearly.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what this world needs too. People
Yeah,
that can, because it is hard, because
it's
you
fucking
have to make
hard.
a
It's
decision,
so
and
hard.
there's all these other voices coming in
Yeah,
your ear.
right.
Oh, make this decision. And almost everyone, when a decision is made, there's some sort of, I think it's, oh, well, you want to do something because you're selfish. Okay, what do you want to do? And they want to do their thing. Well, that doesn't make you selfish. And so, especially now, I've just decided my wife and I consider as a unit. I don't know if she considers us so much as a unit. I consider us a unit. So we're all the decisions are going to be for our best interest,
Hmm.
but sometimes even for our kids. I mean, if our adult children, when they come into play, sorry, I don't have. I have to spend. I'm spending time with your mom, not you, or something like that. So you just for me, sometimes I feel like I need to put myself, and by myself, I mean me and my wife first. But that is one way. I don't, the stroke that I had, the numbers weren't good. The 2 year is less than 50% survival rate, 5 years less than 5% survival rate. And everyone likes to say, oh, well, look at you. You're doing so well. And I'm like, yeah, but I was doing so well before the stroke and so fit. I shouldn't have had the stroke because I don't like the people that are like, oh, you're going to get better. Yeah, I could also get worse. I finally had a therapist this week, and I know I talk a lot here. She told me, I was telling her about some new pain I was having on my stroke side. And she goes, well, I will let you know that that could mean that the feeling's coming back. And she goes, but it's just as likely that the feeling's going by forever. And I really appreciated her saying that because most people only say the first part. Oh, maybe the feeling's coming back when they know that one out of every two people, that feeling's not coming back. So I appreciated her doing that. Okay. Isabella, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Oh, mention your book again. It has a great title, and I know I wrote it down here on my notes. Um,
New Human of New Earth.
there we go.
It's available on Amazon or on through my website, which is www.feelingbetternaturally.love. And I've got a YouTube channel, Feeling Better Naturally, with a lot of nature videos and also some Talking Heads videos from a while back.
Okay.
So, and thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for your questions and also for your courage to be vulnerable about your situation, your life too. I really appreciate that too. It takes a lot of courage
Well,
to speak up and speak
mine's
out.
mine's nothing compared to you. I should have
You just went
gotten
through
all
a
your socials and everything earlier. I apologize for anyone who's listening. All the socials that Isabella just talked about, I will post her website and her socials on there so you will be able to find her in her YouTube channel. But my story is nothing compared to you. I mean,
no. It's not. I disagree. You just went through a life and death situation, right? You just
yeah.
like met death head on. I haven't
Yeah,
done
but
that
the weird thing is it was so easy. I mean, I'm not afraid of death. And
yet. Yeah.
here's the thing, like some people thought that because I didn't have a near death experience where I died, but there were a couple of times where I was so out of it that everyone including the doctors, I remember one of them saying, "I am so sorry" to me.
Oh,
And that was the only thing I actually it was before my wife got there.
oh,
Um but it wasn't. I mean, I didn't go through. It was a life and death situation. The only thing that I came out of it is I'm probably even less scared of death now than I was before. I wasn't scared before. I mean, I've put my body through some stuff. I had 26 orthopedic surgeries, hand surgeries, knee surgeries, shoulders, stuff like that. And I'd always told people, I could die. Oh, you're young and in good shape. Yeah, I could still die. So I've never been afraid. I'm less afraid now, but it was easy peasy. I mean, I had a bad headache for 5 minutes, and then if I would have been gone after that, it wouldn't have been that bad a way to go. I and I don't have any PTSD with it. I mean, I'm suffering from some stroke effects, but the nicest thing that I have going with me post stroke is I have no short term memory. So most of what happens today, I will forget tomorrow and forever. It may come back in a flash or something like that, but that's also a very nice healing tool to be able to forget everything. Um,
and I think that feeling less fearful of death Like the freedom that comes from that will, well, I could imagine that would mean being able to live more fully now, even more fully, even if
Yeah.
you weren't, because that's what you have come face to face with death.
Yeah. And it's amazing. My thought after death was not after death. My kind of thought was, well, if I pass, it was more like, I don't have to pay bills anymore. I don't have to do this. I don't have to get up and go to work anymore. I mean, I was kind of like, death, it's not appealing to me because, like I say, I love this world. I love seeing the beauty of this world. I love seeing like the squirrel Glenn, who obviously went through something traumatic. That he can survive. I mean, honestly, that he can survive. I mean, I'm like limping around because I have a stroke and a bad knee, and this guy looks like he got his head literally bit off. I mean, like I sound like I have it. I mean, I know every day I'm like, man, I wish I had some income coming in. That'd really help us out. But like tomorrow, I'm going to forget that we needed income coming in. So, and I'll get to feed Glenn. And
Right.
he'll wink at me with his one good eye while his other bulged eye says staring at me or not at me. I can't ever tell. But
I bet he's feeling grateful.
yeah. I often said like squirrels will come up to me. So on TikTok, the only thing that I think I ever posted to TikTok was videos of our Doberman. So our Doberman had a prey drive, unless I said, chill. That's all I had to say. So our dog became quite the TikTok sensation because I would put a cracker like I can't change it to centimeters. Sorry. I hope you've been in the United States long enough.
Well, yeah,
Like 6 inches in front of our Doberman, and the squirrels would come up and get the cracker and walk off. I mean, they'd walk off, knowing that the dog 6 inches away was not going to attack. And everyone was
Wow.
like, how do you get your dog to do that? I'm like, she knows that those aren't but it's funny because they would know not to be afraid of the dog, but
Yeah.
they'd hear sorry, I told you that I tried to do like accents. I obviously cannot do a hawk accent, but I always thought it was funny. They hear a hawk and they take off, but they see my Doberman and they're totally cool with it. I can feed them out of my hand and they're cool with that. They hear us. And so I always want to know what that backstory is. So this is when I'd like to remote view into like, there has to be a story. If you hear a sound and you're so scared, you run away. So I'm just wondering, like, if one of their brothers, sisters, mom, dad got picked up. But it was always funny to me that they were terrified of just the sound of a hawk. But my Doberman, they would come and basically eat out of its paws. It was fun.
Yeah, I think there was a scientific experiment where I think it was mice involved with, it might have been a prey animal sound, and they played it to the
So they knew
parents.
before, like knew without anything. So it was like in their DNA.
Yeah, it was in the
That's
DNA, so that the great grandchildren would hear that sound,
well,
and they'd be
that's
scared of it, having never
no,
seen it. Got passed in their DNA.
no, Isabella, don't tell me that. Like telling a story like, what did they see? That's a lot better than, oh, it's in their DNA. If it's in like the story of them is their brother being like Glenn being swooped down and grabbed by the front of his head and his body's just hanging and he's dangling. And then the hawk drops him. That's a much better story than it's in their DNA.
Yeah,
So,
but then it travels in their DNA. So maybe any of Glenn's like progeny, his great
oh
grand
yeah.
squirrels,
Um,
they're going to
I,
be hearing that sound and they'll be terrified.
I will tell you that squirrels, if you do not look like a normal squirrel, they're not mean, but they won't go around Glenn. And here's the weird thing too. We had an albino squirrel, which for some reason I could never get a picture. It would never come and eat. It lived in a different area, but it was like white. And none of the other squirrels would go near it. And it was funny because I thought, I'm like, they can see he's different, but he doesn't have a mirror. So he can't see that he's different. Like to him, he's just a squirrel. He's like, why are you guys not playing with me? And I always thought that was funny because if a squirrel is too different, the other squirrels, they're like, they probably see Glenn and think he's
They're like
bad luck.
people.
true. Yeah, the people at the craps table, like, can you leave, please? You are bad luck. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you so much, and I love seeing you laugh too. It's nice to see a guest laugh on the show. That's always good. And I want to tell you this. I'm fairly transparent. I always have been. It's almost like a superhero tool because people can't use stuff against you if you're open anyway about it. Oh, you want to talk about that? I'll talk about that. But you're only the second new interview I've had since my stroke. I think I've only done like 5 interviews. The first 4 or 5 were people that had either been on before or I knew. So I want to thank you because my stroke, while outwardly a lot of times I seem very normal, it affected me quite a bit. My memory is shit. There are a lot of other things going on, but I wanted to say thank you to you for putting up with me for almost 2 hours. It was very much appreciated. Your pitch that you gave me made me very interested to talk to you. I'm glad we talked before we hit record because I do think it was right that we separate and have 2
Yeah,
shows.
I
So
agree.
there probably won't be as much laughing in the next show so I'm glad to see you laugh this time. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
thank you. I appreciate that. And if you hadn't told me you had a stroke, I never would have known.
Yeah. So, and I will tell you here, the bad thing about that is I find a lot of, so you could, um, I'm not going to grab them. So the jeans I wore to the hospital today. So in a couple weeks, I'm having I had a knee replacement. I'm having the replacement replaced. It's 15 years old and needs to be replaced. So I look normal
Yeah.
from the middle of my body down, straight down the middle. And I'm going to be a little bit crude here. Unfortunately, I hung to the right side. So everything on the right side stopped having feeling. So today I had to go prior to my replacement, I had to go get blood work done before my surgery and stuff. So they did the right arm. That's just where and I don't have any feeling on this side. I'm going to say that the person that was going to take my blood was new. If they weren't new, maybe a job transfer would be best. I did find out something that I'll tell you in a minute that I didn't know about hospitals. She poked me twice to draw blood, but she didn't put the needle in far enough, so it came out. Right after the tourniquet. So my jeans are covered with blood.
Oh,
But the weird thing is, I didn't know I was bleeding. They had to tell me. So that's my problem. So a couple weeks ago, I knocked something over. It was a cup. It was spilling onto my foot. I had no idea until I heard. So that's what I'm having to retrain my brain right now is if you pour water on carpet, it makes a distinct sound. I heard that sound. I'm like, what's pouring on carpet? I looked down. It was actually pouring on my foot and the carpet, but I couldn't feel it. Yeah. So I appreciate you saying that it doesn't look like I had a stroke. I am very well aware of that because I've joined some stroke groups and I know how lucky I am. That's why I say post-stroke, I have never once said a prayer of, God, I hope I get this feeling back. I mean, it'd be nice to have feeling back on the side. It would. To get this peripheral vision back, that would be great. To wear shoes and not hurt, that would be great. I wish that would happen. But you know what? There are always prayers of thanksgiving. Thank you, God, that I'm still here. Thank you. I get to see the sunset. There are a lot of times that I don't sleep. A lot of times, even pre-stroke, I'll get up like at 4 a.m. So I get to see the sunrise.
yeah.
And we live on a golf course. So a lot of times there's steam coming off the pond that's out on 17. I mean, it's beautiful. And if I drank coffee, it would be great to stand out there and drink. I couldn't drink coffee. I take that back. I don't have any feeling. I can't touch anything hot. I've had a few mishaps. But I appreciate you saying that. And it's nice that we're finishing on this because it ties into the Thanksgiving. I mean, it sounds like you're very thankful that everything was a learning experience
Yeah,
for you, because you could have gone through what you did and shut down, not be here anymore. There could have been a lot of things. So thank you for sharing this part of your story. And when people to tune in to our part two, whenever that is, and I hope it's sooner rather than later, they're going to be shocked, because you have an amazing story. You have the way you talk. I say this. This is the coolest thing about doing a podcast is I get to choose who I like. I chose you, your pitch, which a lot of people, oh, that's no big deal. And you may, there's no, that my pitch wasn't that great or whatever, but I chose you. I had specifically said I was only going to choose 20 people. And I was hoping, like before, that I was going to get more than 20. I had like 67 responses last time I looked. I think it was 67. I picked 20. And you made that. So your pitch, but I think that it's not just the words that you said. I think that your words resonated with me. And that's what we've been talking about. This world it's connected. I mean, I think I was connected to you by words before we even spoke. And I mean, that's a powerful thing. And I'm open to that. I mean, some people, like, I tell my mom is very religious. She couldn't even fathom aliens landing here. She couldn't, it's Jesus, it's the Bible, it's God. That's it. It's actually, if we found this out a couple years ago, if you're not Republican, you're not getting in heaven. That was, yeah, I didn't know that was, but evidently, because my wife and I have always been independents. And so my mom was worried about my soul. And she gets really pissed when I'm like, don't worry. God and I talk. I'm sure I talk to God a lot. I'm okay with where my soul's at right now. And I love that. But I also love the fact that I know that I'm not where I need to be. There's a reason that my daughter, and they're grown, but they made me little things that said there's a reason you survived. And maybe that was talking to you today. Maybe it was talking to someone. Maybe it's talking to you next time. Maybe it's has no there's something that's still, I have to listen. I need to continue to listen. And I'll do that. But what I was going to say is your pitch made you stand out. And there are a couple people that have become long time. We text almost every day back and forth. When we'll record, like when we're really going to sit down and talk, we'll actually record it because we think our conversations are fun to be around. But I've made these lifelong friends, and it's because of who they are, and you're letting the world know who you are. I just think, like, when I look at Venice and I try to feel the energy of Venice, if I was there, I would want to just stand there and absorb that energy. I think that you're one of those people that exudes that energy as well. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I mean,
That's very sweet. Thank you.
well, like I said, I mean, I'm the lucky one. I get to pick who I talk to. There were 47 people on that list that were like, oh, I made a good pitch. Or they thought their 9-sentence pitch when I said 2 was a great idea. So I love doing this because I get to meet people like you. And there's no way that you and I, not no way. Right. If the universe wanted us to meet in person, we would have met in person, or we will meet in person. But I am very grateful that my ears are open, like your ears are open. We listen. We want to be able to tap into that. Isabella Young, it's been so fun having you on. It's like I said, I love having conversations like this because I don't suffer fools lightly. So I've never had a lot of friends. I would, and I always am like, really, I'm doing this for you. You don't want to be my friend. And I'm glad that I got to talk to you. You have put a smile on my face. I will tell you, post-stroke, not every day that happens. I have good days and bad days. So I appreciate you, Isabel. And I appreciate you telling your story. And when people listen to the next part, they're probably going to be like, you should lead with that story next. That's what they're going to say. Yeah. Okay. Isabella Young, tell them your website again one more time.
It's www.feelingbetternaturally.love, and on YouTube, Feeling Better Naturally. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, to be heard. It's extremely important for all of us to feel heard. and it's a big part of my healing too, to be able to tell my story. And so thank you, because it's good medicine what you're doing, giving people the
Well,
opportunity to feel heard. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I also want to tell you this because for you, this is going to be very simple. But I want to mention this for maybe audience members that don't find this quite as easy. So when you and I started talking before I hit record, you actually said, hey, I'm not sure about this. I read your background, it's more lighthearted and stuff. And so you had brought that up. And I appreciate that. A lot of people don't do that. They don't put their best interest, or what it wasn't maybe your best interest, but you were just like, hey, and some people don't do that. They feel like, oh, I need to just do this. And I talk. I think this actually worked out well. I mean, by separating this, because your other story, there's a lot to it. And it's amazing. People are going to be amazed at your story. I don't know how you got into it or how you got out of it, but I know where you are now. And that is a journey. And people are going to really be not enamored. It's probably not the right word, because there's a lot of dark sides to it, but it's going to be powerful. And we're at 2 hours on this. And I was like, when we're like, oh, we're kind of changing direction a little bit, not because I wanted to talk about all this stuff too. I was like, well, I hope I get an hour out of this. And that's what I love about doing this. It's like a conversation.
Yeah.
2 hours. Gosh, Isabella, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ro. And thanks
You're
to
welcome.
everybody for listening.
Yeah. Hey, everyone, you've been listening to the Stone Genius podcast. My name's Ro. You know me. I'm often stoned. I'm always a genius. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.